Level 1. The Applicant. You don't tell anyone you applied. Not your parents, not your best friend, not the person you're dating. The website is clear. If you talk about this process, you're done. You submit your resume into a digital void and wait. 3 months pass. Nothing. Then an email appears from a sterile government address asking if you're still interested. The first interview isn't dramatic. It's in a nondescript office building in a business park. Neutral carpet, beige walls, no logos. The man across from you doesn't introduce himself with a title. He asks about your travel history, foreign contacts, language proficiency, debt. He asks what you believe about America's role in the world. He watches your eyes more than he listens to your answers. You move to psychological screening, hundreds of questions, some repeated in slightly different forms. They're not testing your sanity, they're mapping your stress patterns. Then the polygraph, drug use, ideology, foreign loyalties, personal secrets. The machine measures your breathing while a stranger measures your morality. The background investigation takes longer than you expect. They speak to professors you forgot existed, old roommates, a neighbor from 10 years ago. 6 months later, you receive an offer. You are now part of the Central Intelligence Agency, but not in the way movies show. Not yet. Level 2. The Analyst. You start at Langley. It feels less like a spy headquarters and more like a quiet corporate campus. You're an analyst. No gun, no field work, just data. Intercepted communications, satellite imagery, financial anomalies, patterns inside chaos. You build assessments about foreign governments you've never visited. Your words might appear in the president's daily brief. You will never be told if they influenced a decision. Most days are routine, but one morning you flag unusual troop movements near a border. You write a cautious warning. Activity may indicate preparation for limited incursion. 2 weeks later, that country invades. Your wording gets dissected internally. Should you have been stronger, more definitive? You learn your first hard truth. In intelligence, being almost right can still mean catastrophe. You start craving something different. You don't want to predict history, you want to shape it. Level 3. The Operations Trainee. You apply to transfer into operations. The selection is competitive and quiet. You're sent to training, known unofficially as the farm. There's no glamour here. You wake early. You run scenarios repeatedly until they feel mechanical. You learn surveillance detection routes, how to know if someone is following you. You practice brush passes in crowded streets, dead drops in parks, encrypted communication protocols. But the hardest skill isn't physical, it's psychological. You must convince strangers to betray their own governments. Your instructor says something that stays with you. People don't sell secrets for money, they sell them for emotion, resentment, ego, fear, loneliness. You're trained to find the crack and gently widen it. During a role-play exercise, you push too hard. The asset shuts down. The instructor stops the scenario. You don't recruit people, you let them recruit themselves. You adjust. By graduation, you're different, calmer, more observant, more patient. You're posted overseas under official diplomatic cover. Your real career begins. Level 4. The Case Officer. You arrive in a foreign capital as an embassy staffer. Publicly, you work political reporting. Privately, you hunt access. You attend conferences, business events, academic panels. You look for potential. A mid-level defense official frustrated by slow promotion. A cybersecurity contractor buried in debt. A policy advisor ideologically disillusioned. You don't pitch immediately. You build routine. Coffee becomes regular. Regular becomes trusted. Trusted becomes vulnerable. When you finally make a subtle recruitment pitch, it's almost unclimactic. If you ever wanted your perspective heard outside your system, we could arrange that. Sometimes they say yes. Sometimes they never respond again. Sometimes you're declared persona non grata and expelled. You learn to read fear. You learn to read ambition. You learn to read silence. One of your first assets provides insight into internal political fractures in his government. That intelligence shapes U.S. diplomatic strategy. You can't tell anyone. You just file the cable and move on. Level 5, the senior case officer. Years pass. You now run multiple assets. Encrypted messages flow to Langley weekly. You manage risk constantly. An asset wants more money. Another wants asylum. A third is growing paranoid. You balance intelligence value against human safety. Then one stops responding. No signal, no message, no emergency code. You check quietly. You learn he was arrested 2 days earlier. Local news calls it an anti-corruption sweep. You know better. You're instructed to sever all contact and protect the network. No funeral, no acknowledgement, just a cable. Asset compromised, presumed detained. You don't know what happens to him. That uncertainty is worse than confirmation. You continue recruiting, because the mission continues. Level 6, Chief of Base. Promotion brings authority. You now oversee all CIA operations in an entire country. Every recruitment pitch must pass through you. Every operational risk decision carries your signature. An asset requests immediate extraction. He believes he's under surveillance. If you pull him out, you lose your most valuable source. If you leave him, he might be arrested. Headquarters wants more reporting before extraction. You must decide quickly. You approve the extraction. It succeeds. Headquarters questions your judgment afterward. You defend it calmly. You begin to understand leadership in intelligence is measured in invisible trade-offs. Level 7, Division Chief. Back at Langley. You now oversee multiple countries. Hundreds of officers report upward through your chain. Your days are filled with briefings, terror threats, election interference, military modernization. You allocate resources. Which region gets more officers? Which operation deserves funding? Which asset is too risky to keep? You sit across from policymakers who want simple answers. You give them layered probabilities. They sometimes ignore them. When a crisis erupts overseas, journalists speculate wildly. You know the classified version. You say nothing. Secrecy isolates you more than danger ever did. Level 8, Deputy Director for Operations. You now oversee global clandestine activity. If an officer is detained overseas, your phone rings first. If a covert action leaks to the press, you testify behind closed doors. You brief the director. You brief the National Security Council. Every word is calibrated. Too vague, and you're accused of incompetence. Too specific, and you risk exposing sources. You haven't run an asset in a decade, but you are responsible for thousands. You sleep lightly. Your family notices you're present but distant. They don't know why. Level 9, Director of the CIA. Appointed by the President, confirmed by the Senate. You now lead the entire Central Intelligence Agency. You deliver the President's daily brief personally. You decide what intelligence rises to the top. A terrorist plot overseas, a cyber intrusion campaign, a fragile ceasefire on the verge of collapse. You testify before Congress. Half the room doubts you. The other half depends on you. When operations succeed, they remain classified. When they fail, they are front-page news. You cannot defend yourself publicly. Secrecy protects the mission. It also traps you inside it. Level 10, the private citizen. You retire quietly. There's a ceremony, but it's controlled. No cameras, no memoir tours. You leave Langley for the last time. You walk through a grocery store without scanning faces. At least you try. You wake at 3 a.m. thinking about an asset left behind years ago. You wonder if your decisions saved lives. You wonder about the ones they didn't. You can't tell your children what you did. You can't explain why you missed birthdays. You protected secrets for decades. Now the biggest secret is your own life. And somewhere, a college graduate is submitting an application to the Central Intelligence Agency. They're dreaming about espionage. They don't know about probability, about trade-offs, about invisible consequences. They don't know that every rank brings more power and less freedom. And they're about to find out.